gentlemen, welcome out to Talladega, where myself, Sean Griffith, and Brandon Domain himself are here to bring you all the action from Speed Racing Network, the Truck Series.
Absolutely are, and you know what? A big night here because we're at the biggest track they'll come to all season long, getting ready for 145 miles at Talladega. And just like we said at Daytona, these races, the ultimate wild card races out here, so everybody feeling they got a shot to win tonight.
And because of that, it is a packed house here tonight. We had people that were begging to get into this race. We have so many drivers and only a few spots, so definitely going to be a good one out there tonight in the trucks.
Certainly is. Got that full field of 43 out there getting ready to go here tonight, or I should say 40, getting ready to go out here tonight. But, I mean, it's just super competitive. Like we always say at these races, everybody feels that they have that opportunity to go out there and be in position at the end of this race to win. You don't feel that anywhere else. I know we didn't feel that last night in the Cup Series at Richmond. There's a whole lot of discrepancy there. But in these races, it is completely up for grabs. You just got to survive, make it to the finish, and much like the U.S. men's soccer team, survive in advance. That's the strategy tonight here at Talladega.
And just like the U.S. men's soccer team, you have to have a strategy coming in. You can't just show up here and try to figure it out along the way. You have to know what you're going to do. Are you going to hang back? Are you going to be up towards the front? What's the pit strategy? What's going to happen? And then after all that, what Mike Tyson says rings very, very true. Everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's I think that they said it about, 2001. I think Michael Waltrip said a lot where they were talking about that they could plan how they wanted this race to go. And that's all well and good until the green flag drops and you get to turn one. And then that plan goes completely out the window. But we have seen some teams here in SRN recently in these plate races do a really good job about strategizing, working together. And I'm curious to see if they can hang on to that or if some of the other teams that haven't been so successful at it have figured them out and come out with a strategy of their own.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because right now on the leaderboard, we've got 7 different teams represented in the top 8. So not a lot of strategy going on there, but let's take a look and see what the point standings look like. And Austin Purnell leading the way here with Brad Herman, Sean Jensick, and Blair Holloman with those wins under their belts right behind them.
And how about this? Just 30 points separating the top 6, which includes 4 of the 5 race winners here this season. But we said it last week. We said it a couple races, the past couple races. Austin Purnell has quietly just been consistently right up near the top every single week that we've been running these races here, and it shows with that points lead. That is not a fluke for him. He's had a tremendous turnaround from last year, and it is no surprise to see him leading the point standings with how well he's driven.
Yeah, and just throwing out a name there on the right side, actually a couple of names. Michael Madden there tied for 10th position. Kyle Spees, who can go off and win anytime he wants to. Bo Tiffany there tied for 15th. I mean, all sorts of stuff going on, and really it's just a big group of really, really great drivers, and we'll just have to see how it pans out as we quickly approach week 13 and that cutoff for the playoffs.
Yeah, and I mean, you mentioned Kyle Spees can win at any time. He won at Daytona at the start of the season, so obviously going to be happy to be seeing Talladega here tonight. But one name not on there, the first driver behind that cut line at 17th, David Miller, just 1 point back. So all of this can be completely shaken up with a race like this one tonight.
Yeah, you just never know what's going to happen. But let's take a look at the team matchups from last week. And, of course, one of the cool things about Speed Racing Network is we have this team aspect as well. And we've got Threat Level Midnight Motorsports versus Phoenix up there. Phoenix won that. Then you have Zuyos versus Rat Pack. Zuyos took that one. JW Racing continues their winning ways, and they took that matchup against Jonathan Byer Racing. And then Tank Racing took the matchup between them and TJ's team.
Yeah, a lot of tight action there for much of that week of matchups there. Notice Thread Level Midnight. That's one thing we can kind of say, a little bit of a rebrand there. So that's not a completely brand new team. They did have that rebrand. They'll be sitting in that 3rd position. But I just like looking at how close the points are as well. I mean, if you're looking at that far right column, that's going to determine some tiebreakers out there should that be needed. And as close as these standings are, it very well could when we get to that cutoff for the final 4 teams that are going to be in those final 3 races. And I mean, you're looking at most of the field separated by no more than 100 points.
Yeah, and speaking of those tiebreakers, look at the ties themselves. Threat Level Midnight and Tank Racing tying a little bit earlier this season. That could come into play because it's a little bit better than a loss. And so you just never know. And man, that Zuyos Racing has just been dominant this entire season so far. We'll see if that continues here at the wild card track. But this week's matchups, Zuyos has Threat Level Midnight, so that could be an interesting matchup.
Yeah. It absolutely can. I think this is the complete toss-up when it comes to these team races, and there's no buys here in the Truck Series. We've got 8 full teams, so nobody gets that gimme here at Talladega. They're going to have to go for it. Like we say, in the individual side, anybody can win. The same goes on the team side.
Yeah, and I mean, just looking at Tank Racing and JBR, I can't believe that either one of them has a losing record at this point. That just goes to show exactly how much parity is here in Speed Racing Network up to this point. But let's go out there onto the track because we have already got that qualifying done. Man, that went awfully quick, didn't it?
Certainly did. As 10 minutes out there for everybody, but also going quick out there. The margin of separation for these guys. But out on the front row, we're going to see JW Racing's Trevor Williams, who's got a win here very recently in the series. He'll be starting in the pole position. Outside pole will be Troy Techmeyer, one of the few independents build. Row number 2 will be Kyle Spees out of Threat Level Midnighter Sports and Kevin Asanio out of Phoenix Virtual Racing. And in row number 3, Byron Jones and Michael Larch.
Yeah, and then you got Nathan Nixon from Rat Pack Racing, kind of one of the old guard here at Speed Racing Network. Good to see him back up front. Sean Jinsick at the same time, his teammate, another one of those old guard. Jeff No, new to Speed Racing Network this season. He is going to be on the inside of Michael Madden for Rat Pack Racing. So Rat Pack's got a little bit of a team structure up there. Not too bad there. But then Jeff Vickery, the captain of Threat Level Midnight Motorsports, he will be in 11th. And then Lucas Lyons, an independent, he will be there in 12th. All right.
So that'll be our... Sorry about that. Go ahead.
No, you're good. All right, let's get it up. Let's get going. Let's get this flag going. Hey, one name out there that we haven't really mentioned yet. Take a look at this guy. We know him. We love him. We know exactly who he is. It is Greg Olenek making his debut in Speed Racing Network this season. The old guard himself here in the broadcast booth, deciding to step out of the broadcast booth and trying his luck behind the wheel.
Man, it's good to see him back out there. I know he was planning on doing this season and getting back out there. Circumstances didn't quite work out and came onto the broadcast. Full opportunity with that for all 3 series, but opportunity opened up here in the Truck Series to help out Phoenix Virtual Racing as David Miller unable to continue this season with some personal things that are going on. All good news there. Happy for him. But Greg Olenek filling in for the rest of the season there in that 31 truck, and it's good to see him back out there. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I'm going to start this thing off right now. I'm picking Greg Olenek to win this race.
See, and I was going to do that, but since you did it, I also saw another truck that we haven't really talked a whole lot much this season, but I just love the paint scheme. I'm looking one truck in front of him in the 92, Travis Burton, because... While we look at a Nebraska Cornhuskers truck, we go to the 92.
There we
My
go.
LSU Tigers.
Oh,
it's SEC Championship week. They're in that game against Georgia. They will most likely probably lose that game, but they are in it in the SEC Championship game. I'm a big LSU fan, so I'm going to be going with Travis Burton here tonight.
Sounds good, man. That is a good-looking paint scheme. Love seeing the Death Valley and the Go Tigers out there being represented. So we will get out there, and they are going down the back stretch. This is going to be a tough race tonight. It's only 55 laps, but that is more than enough time for you to strategize and figure out. So, Brandon, you're a good driver. Do you go to the back or do you stay up front?
Well, that's debatable after last night's race, but honestly, in these races, I kind of liken this to what we saw on the duels, just the quick sprints, 35 laps out there for everybody to get it all sorted out. You had enough time for one pit stop and go. And I think this is going to be very similar. There's going to be some guys kind of sitting there out in the back a little bit, risking it. That's going to be one of those 4 out of 5 times you're doing the right thing. But that 1 out of 5, that caution doesn't come out. You're going to be stuck back there, and that's going to be a nightmare. Short race like this, I think you kind of got to start pushing forward a little bit quicker than you might be anticipating when we get to some of these longer races like we see in the Cup and Xfinity side.
Yeah, a lot of times we see a lot of just kind of being a little bit held back this first little part of the race. I'm not sure we're going to see that here tonight. I think people are really going to want to get it antsy a little bit early in the race, but we are through the Geico restart zone, and it all begins. Trevor Williams on the inside starting us off. You can already see that outside line getting really, really tight there on the outside, getting all packed together. That will help. Now, we do see some tires going below that yellow line. You can't pass below the yellow line, but you can certainly use it if you need to. But now we've got the 14 of Kevin Asanio. He is diving down to the inside line. He's going to try to use that momentum to push up. At the same time, the 11 of Nathan Nixon dives out to the outside to try to take the lead out there.
Yeah, and at this point, this is just trying to get comfortable. You might have worked with some people around you in practice that'll give you some indication, but for the most part, you're just trying to feel out what line is going to work. These first handful of laps, everybody near you, you're looking, are they a good pusher? Can they be pushed well? That's another thing that people don't really think about a whole lot. They think about who's good at pushing, but there is an art to being the one being pushed. That goes a long way. And you're also looking at who are the ones that I'm going to be avoiding the rest of this race. Who's not aggressive enough? Who is the one that's being maybe too aggressive at the same time? There's a whole lot of studying going on in these first 5-10 laps here.
Yeah, and really, it's hard to be patient when all these cars are moving all over the place around you, all these trucks at least. But up front right now, Kyle Spees nosing ahead of Trevor Williams there on the outside lane is where Kyle Spees is.
Yeah, and I think if you're one of these guys up front, you're just looking at who's up there leading these lines right now. You got Trevor Williams, you got Kyle Spees, both been very good when it comes to these plate races, very consistent at these plate races. So they're going to be guys that'll push them knowing what they have there in these two drivers. I think the same scattered throughout, but the one thing we're also not noticing here is teammates here in this top 10 in this main group right now. There's a lot of scattered teams out there, and that's really going to alter the strategy here early on. There might be some guys that start dropping back with their teammates just to try to get lined up together.
Yeah, and usually what we see here is one team getting up front and dominating both the inside and the outside lane and almost daring somebody to make a move on them. And that just is not going to happen anytime soon with the way this makeup is, where the top 6 all from different teams, now the top 7 all from different teams. So you either have to learn to work together and just kind of know where they're at, or you're going to get trapped just like Trevor Williams just did.
Yeah, he went to block that high line as he saw Kyle Spees making the run, and he got stuck in the middle. He committed a little bit too late. By the time he tried to come back down, Byron Jones was already inside that path of the 46 truck, and he was going to be leading that inside line. And now if you're Trevor Williams, you're just hoping there's a hole to slip in there somewhere, because that is not a comfortable view being in the middle here, 3 wide.
Oh, you can see how close those trucks are getting to each other, and when you see just that little bit of a hole in front of you and you know you can't make it through that hole, you just have to sit there patiently and wait, as we are 3 wide through the front of this pack.
Now, unlike Daytona, you can pull off 3 wide here very easily. Oh, Kevin Astanio kind of getting squirrely there, and that Zubaz looking Buffalo Bill got very squirrely touching that apron, did a good job collecting that. Also give a shout out there to Jeff Noe and the 55 behind him, gave him that little bit of space to gather it back up without getting any contact there. But what I was saying there is, you know, it's a lot easier to go 3 wide here at Talladega than Daytona. You got about 12, 15 feet more width on the racetrack. It opens up that other lane a whole lot more. I think that's another reason why we might not see teams really be able to pull off that side-by-side up front strategy where they're blocking both lanes and really kind of just controlling the race. That third line is way easier to open up here at Talladega.
Yeah, and you can get away with going down there and touching that line early in this race where it doesn't get as squirrely as maybe it will a little bit later on in this fuel run, where these trucks are a little bit lighter and that back end tends to float a little bit more. And so you can get away with it here in the first 5, maybe 10 laps. But once we get to lap 20 or so, you touch that yellow line, you're going around.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, once that truck lightens up, it's so much easier to get around there. The way that the aero affects the truck, too, because the weight isn't pushing that back spoiler down, it's lifting it up a little bit, so it makes it a little bit more sensitive as well. But part of that, when you touch the line, I mean, you look at this racing at Talladega, Daytona, you're just like, it's so easy. How can you get in danger of touching the line? we go on board with one of these trucks that's not leading one of these lines, you'll see there is no vision out there. You're basically just looking at the back of the truck in front of you, and you're trying to time everything perfectly and making sure that you're not getting into that apron, that you're staying in there tucked in with that draft. It is a visual, just difficult challenge there to be able to keep that thing in line with everybody. A lot easier on the inside, but it's also a lot riskier because you have that apron right there.
And you can see there that there is nobody hanging back right now. Everybody is all put together in this lead pack. It's just a matter of where you are in that lead pack at the time. But Nathan Nixon and Kyle Spees leading both of those lines on the inside and on the outside there, just as they have been for the past few laps. I don't think anybody really wants to make too big of a challenge just yet.
No, I think everybody's pretty much calm, especially if you're in that top 10 right now. If you're in that big pack, up until we start seeing them scatter about 8 rows deep, I think everybody's just pretty content right now, just riding around, seeing what they've got. I think we're past that point now of everybody kind of scouting everyone. They kind of know what they've got. When it comes to who's around them and what the qualities are, what they bring to the table in terms of being a drafting partner. So I think at this rate, they're just saying, let's just get to this first pit stop, and then everything's going to go loose from there.
Yeah, and even the pit stops here are difficult to do. This is one of those tracks where you have such a high speed coming in that if you brake too early, you're going to lose a ton of spots. If you brake too late, you're not going to make it into the pits. And so it is a science to get into the pits here.
And the other part, too, is if you're one of the trail cars going into pit road and you're a little bit slower, you're going to lose the draft entirely coming off of pit road. So you also got to keep in mind getting into your stall cleanly, getting off pit road cleanly. There's a whole lot going on once we get to that time. We're still going to be about 20 laps away from when we get to those pit stops, though, if this thing stays green. But we got some nice, tight, 3-wide racing here, about 5th row on back.
Doesn't shock me at all to see Michael Madden popping out to that outside. One of those drivers that can hold that line extremely well, extremely experienced, has a lot of wins here in Speed Racing Network. So it doesn't shock me to see him make that move, but immediately he comes right back down into the middle line as Lucas Lyons, I believe it is on the outside line now leading the way.
Yeah, something about that just kind of felt like he didn't like where he was being pushed or didn't get comfortable in that one, because normally if he pops up to that third line and tries to lead it, he's going to start moving forward, but I think he just wasn't comfortable in that one, decided to come back down towards the middle where there's a bigger line. And this is one of those racetracks, we talk about it a lot with the draft, there is strength in numbers out here. If you get the bigger line, you're going to generate a lot more power out there if that line's tight. And this is kind of going back to what I was talking about earlier with how little you're seeing. You're just seeing a big white tailgate for the most part. You're barely seeing where you're going. You're just trying to predict everything, trying to stay in line, trying not to get into them too hard. It's going into the turn where the truck's really light and wants to get away from them. Just a whole lot of science here. It seems easy going around Talladega. It seems like it's one of the easier styles, just a completely different style of racing than what these guys are usually used to when it comes to the intermediates or short tracks. So it's not easier, it's just different.
Yeah, I mean, my 11-year-old daughter, I put her on the sim not too long ago, and she could drive around Talladega without other cars and trucks there. But once you put her out there with other cars and trucks, it was a disaster. So it is definitely not as easy as what people think it is to maneuver around the place. Now, when you have the whole track to yourself, then yeah, it's cakewalk, but that is not going to happen very often. Now, we did see a car get lapped there. That was Raul Meza here in the number 37, so he is the only car a lap down, or the only truck a lap down. If there is an incident, then he should be the lucky dog, which will put him back on the lead lap. So not too bad of a deal for him right now.
No, it's still early enough. His thing is going to be he just needs to sit in the back at this point. I would drop back even farther, because if a wreck does happen and he gets collected in it or picks up any damage, that's going to completely negate that lucky dog. So his goal right now, just get out of the way, make sure you don't get caught up in anything if a caution were to happen.
Yeah, got to throw his name out there, because we actually had a flood at my office not too long ago, and Serve Pro actually came out in my area out here, and they took care of everything. I mean, just got the water up and everything. So great job on that. I know he works for Serve Pro out there in California, so good to see them represented really well. Look
at that sponsor integration. That was handled like a pro.
Yeah, and I didn't even get paid to do that, right? I mean, it's just one of the personal testimonial here. But just diving in here on second place, Byron Jones. He is sitting there just right behind Nathan Nixon, and he has not even tried to pop out to the outside yet. And so I think he is just content to ride around at this point, maybe even save some fuel by being right behind Nathan Nixon here.
I think that's a big part of it right now. If you're the one leading that line, either line out there, you're going to be using the most amount of fuel because you're going to be full throttle trying to pull that line. Everybody else can get sucked up into that draft because of the air that's coming off that, the lead truck or the truck that's in front of whoever would be in those positions, and they can use a little bit less throttle. They're using less fuel going around that racetrack. I think he's comfortable sitting right there in that second position. He's still pretty well out of danger. I also like what he's doing right now. He's giving Nathan those shoves. He's giving him the aero push right there, or the drafting with the air, just kind of shoving him there, but he's not using the truck physically to do it. He's giving him that little bit of space. You can see how close he is. That's still going to be an effective draft, but he's not putting that 11 truck in any danger.
Yeah, and that's the name of the game right now. And this is one of those tracks where you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. If we can get around this track together, stay up towards the front here, then at the end of the race, you know what, we'll duke it out as men. And that's how it goes. But this is also one of those tracks where you can make a lot of enemies really quickly.
Oh, you certainly can. And loose moment there for Troy Techmeyer. Going to come right back up in line, and everybody is going to make that work. That was a heck of a job by everyone in that middle line, and really in that bottom line too. So it was a close moment there for Kevin Asanio in the 14, trying to make sure he wasn't getting collected in that. But that was a good job by everybody to keep that thing going straight.
Yeah, we are not like many of those series that allow fast repairs on these super speedways. And so one big moment like that at the front of the pack is going to take out half the field. So just be super cautious there. So great job by Troy Techmeyer. He has had a really fantastic season so far.
Yeah, he's done a really good job out here, and he's sitting there, 23rd in the points, but he's still pretty close to that cut line, within about 20 points of getting back there. So a good run here tonight. He might be right back up in that mix.
Yeah, he's got the talent definitely to be up there in that top 15 and to be a contender when playoff time comes around. He just needs a couple more little lucky breaks here and there. He has gotten caught up in some stuff, not of his doing, but just kind of caught up in some stuff. But I think the tracks coming up are kind of leaning his direction.
Yeah, that's going to be one of those things. It's kind of funny. You hear in the different series, everybody's kind of looking at the split schedules now and looking at these things like, all right, well, one group saying we got out of the toughest part of the schedule already. The other group's going, okay, we're getting into the toughest part of the schedule. I think right now we're getting a little bit more traditional for these truckers here as we get into the holiday break and come into 2023. I think they're going to start feeling pretty comfortable out there. They got some of the challenges out of the way.
Yeah, there are a lot of break weeks coming up, which is nice for some of these guys because, of course, we're all about family here at Speed Racing Network and everything. But we got Sean Kosher. And wow, someone is flipping. Who was that was flipping? I believe that was maybe Lane Doyle.
Yeah. Got the 33, the 66. We got a whole bunch of trucks in there. See Greg Olenek going through the grass. See the 33, Corey Stahl. He's got some damage through the grass. There is a lot of torn up racetracks as Lane Doyle went riding along the wall, caught up in the catch fence. That was a wild ride for the 47, but we got about a dozen trucks or so really torn up here in this one.
I think it's going to be more than that, Brandon. Let's go back and see if we can't get a rec replay and find out exactly what happened there, because we saw it, but I didn't really understand it when it happened.
All I know is I looked to pull up the schedule so we could keep talking about that topic, and by the time I look back up, there was half the field gone. As we take a look here, 3 wide, you see the 47 up there on the third line, up by the wall. He's third truck in that line. The 97 gets loose. Not sure if that was going to be a bad push or if he just got loose out there, but when he came up the racetrack, it blocked the top half of it. And then once Lane Doyle came back down, he came down to the inside, and that track was just completely blocked. It looked a lot like, I want to say it was 02 or 03 when they had that Busch race where the whole track was blocked and like 30 cars got caught up in it. Very similar to what we just had here. There was nowhere for anyone to go.
Oh, we'll go on board with Lane Doyle here in just a second. Got a camera on that car, so we'll have some fun with that one. But, wow, look at the carnage here at Talladega.
Saw some guys taking the grass, some guys kind of squeezing up against the wall trying to get by, so some good wreck avoidance by a few of those guys, but there is a lot of really beat-up race trucks out here.
If you're squeamish, turn away now because this is not going to be a fun ride.
Man alive, that is just a heck of a ride right here for Lane Doyle, and we talked about it the last race, Greg and I, that man, it shocked us to see Lane so far behind in the point standings, but it's been because of things like this, things where he just can't find his way around this trouble, or it just finds him out there on the racetrack this season. Just a really unlucky season right now for Lane Doyle, and it continues here at Talladega.
Yeah, I'm keeping an eye on the pits right now because there are a lot of people fixing damage right now, so it's looking like almost half the field is fixing damage of some sort.
My goodness, this is going to change a whole lot out here in this race, and now you're going to see a lot of guys that'll have some damage out here, and they're just going to say, you know what, I can stay with it in the draft, but I'm not going to be anybody that can lead a line. That's now half the field thinking they can't lead a line. It's going to drastically change how people approach this race the rest of the way.
Whew, that was definitely something to watch. So now that we are right back there out on the track, let's take a look here really quick and see how our picks are doing. So Travis Burton up here in 14th position. That's your pick there, and my pick, Greg Olenek, back here in 19th. Both of them look like their trucks are okay.
Both of them got through the wreck. That's the important thing right now. We didn't even see the 92 get caught up in it. Greg Olenek went through the grass. I don't believe he's got any damage on that truck. Only thing he would have done is taken a 1X penalty out there. And you know what? I'll sacrifice one incident point to have a clean race truck out here at Talladega. I think that's definitely the right call. So our picks doing a pretty good job here so far.
Not bad. Not bad. So far, so good. You know, we're not going to try to jinx that, but we still do have 11 trucks right now still in the pits getting repairs done. And so definitely a lot of carnage out there. And we'll see how many more don't even make it back out of the pits. I can see it looks like 5 of them right now that are going to stay in the pits even though they're going to go a lap down. Now, speaking of the lap down, Raul Meza was one of those the only truck that was a lap down prior to that incident, and now he is back up on the lead lap because he got that lucky dog wave around.
There you go. That's how you got to do it. And that, I mean, not to bring up my race last night, I was about a lap down for 100 laps out there at Richmond, fought to get it all back, and that's what you just got to do. You just got to keep yourself in that position, stay out of trouble. You'll get rewarded eventually by getting that lap back if you're in that lucky dog position. But speaking of strategy, one thing you got to keep in mind, that caution came out at a time where we still have one pit stop left in this race. So that's still going to float out there, and it's going to be at an awkward point now because instead of kind of being smack dab in the middle where everybody's going to make that stop, now there's a little bit of strategy that can come into play because they're only going to be looking at about 40 laps. So there's going to be some ambiguity in how they go about when they want to come down pit road with their teams.
Out there in the YouTube chat, Blair Holloman, who is in the race. Blair, you're not supposed to be texting and driving, man, but he said, take a look at my replay from that incident. And so we will really quickly as the cars are coming down the backstretch. And you can see Blair Holloman in the middle of everything. You can see Lane Doyle in the 47 on the outside there. And, wow, he got that thing woed up really quick. It's not bad.
I tell you what, that's a scary moment too. When you're one of those first ones up into the accident, you're checking up, trying to make sure you don't get in it. You are just hoping everybody behind you knows what's going on and they check up in time. Because when you're that first one on the brakes trying to slow up to miss a wreck, you are a sitting duck in your own right by everybody still going full speed behind you.
Yeah, Blair Holloman, hey man, get back out there and race some more. Stop texting while you're driving. It's not good. It's not good.
I don't know if YouTube has talk to text, so
I mean, he watches our YouTube channel while he's driving, and you know, maybe that helps him, maybe it hurts him. I don't know. Maybe we should throw out some strategy to him while Blair, stay back, man. Let's see what happens.
On the 10-second delay, that'll be interesting too.
All right. Well, the pace car will dive off the track, and Nathan Nixon will lead this race as we are coming up to the Geico restart zone, and it will be on Nathan whenever he chooses to go in that restart zone. And off they go. Well, no, they're not. No,
there it is.
Oh, okay. Wow. I saw another Geico restart. Did you not see another Geico over there?
I think I saw one, but yeah, it's over right where about the start-finish line traditionally is.
That was a little strange. All right, well, Nathan Nixon gets it going. Wow, that was a false start if I've ever seen one. But Nathan Nixon on the inside, Michael Larch on the outside. Now, Michael Larch does have his teammate Trevor Williams, who was the pole sitter. He is down on the inside. So JW Racing might try to control this thing just like they had before, but use Nathan Nixon to help him out.
Yeah, the problem there is Nathan's not going to give up those positions anytime soon. And if Larch does come down, which he does, problem now is I think everybody's kind of on to that game that JW Racing has done very well in the past restrictor plate races where they do that side-by-side race. I don't think anybody's really going to let Trevor Williams out of that box to try to set that position up. I think the one that might have the best chance out of it, sitting 4 rows back on the outside, is Dean Gagliano, because he's already on the outside. He can make that run if there's enough traffic that starts moving out of the way. He's just going to have to be aggressive. And Troy Techmeyer is saying, you know what, we're not even going to let that be a conversation. He's going to drop that 32 in front of that inside line.
Yeah, the entire dance of the Talladega is going on up at the front, where you get to the outside, you pull forward ahead of that inside line, and then you drop down to the inside, leaving that outside to hang.
Yeah, and there's a little strategy to that, too. I mean, if you got the person behind you and you trust them as a great pusher and you want to stay together, you're trying to get 2 truck lengths out in front of that bottom truck. But that's hard to do around here because of the side drafting, because of the momentum, the way it goes. You normally don't get that opportunity to get both trucks down there. So you just kind of hope that you can link back up later on in the race.
Oh, sorry about that. We're going to get back to the chopper here. And, yeah, on the outside there, Kevin Alsanio is leading the way on the outside line. He's getting pushed by Sean Jensing. Good to see Sean Jensing back up front again.
Yeah, doing a really nice job up there in that 29 truck. Second truck on the outside, pushing Alsanio in the 14, who's leading that outside line. And I like how this is shaping up right now. I think everybody's kind of being respectful. We got a whole lot of this field all running on that inside line. Save about 9 trucks on the outside. Most everybody just kind of taking their time on the inside. I think the timing of this caution that just came out not too long ago, I think is throwing off a lot of the way that these guys are wanting to handle this race the rest of the way, because they still know it's going to be a sprint with a pit stop and then another sprint if it were to stay green the entire way. I think this is just going to really shake up how strategically everybody's thinking about how they need to get around this racetrack.
Yeah, and the interesting thing about that very first caution there was it was almost friendly fire. You had Michael Madden there pushing his teammate Sean Kozier, and I'm not sure if there was actually any contact there or not, but it was just kind of weird how that truck started turning. So even if you do have your teammates up there together, you have to be super cautious of where you push.
Oh, absolutely, and especially if you get down into the left rear quarter panel of that truck, or the left side of the tailgate, I should say, that's really kind of putting that truck in an uncomfortable position, especially into the turn. And I think the thing that gets overlooked a lot is the tri-oval. The way it's banked, the speed that you carry through it is completely different than turns 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And so you can really get those trucks unstable when you go into the tri-oval like they're doing right now. You're going to see a lot of guys that'll be pushing in 1 and 2, down the back straightaway, down through 3 and 4. But the second they get near that tri-oval, they'll start backing off the tailgate just a little bit because they know how dangerous pushing is in the tri-oval.
And that's supposed to, it looks really, really easy, and it looks really, really calm in that area. But yeah, that is the most treacherous area, especially because a lot of people take it differently than other people do. And so some people take that tri-oval just a little bit earlier than others, and some people don't. And so you got to really know where that truck's going.
Yeah, and it's a tighter radius, it's a lower banking, just everything about it is just so different than how the truck is set up to typically run. And so that's just what makes it very uncomfortable there and really aero sensitive. Now we got to run to the outside. Michael Larch going to set this up. This might go 3 wide here pretty quick. He's going to get a little bit of help from Kevin Alsanio, and that outside line is going to start pushing him. And now, don't look now, but I believe that's Blair Holloman sitting there on the far outside line. He's got a killer run going right now with Michael Madden pushing.
Yeah, he is in that U-Haul branded truck, and man, he is a hauling. I've been waiting to say that all week. I've been waiting to say it all week, man.
We got 2 U-Haul trucks out there. I just noticed we got the 85 running the U-Haul scheme as well. 3rd in line on the outside, but yeah, they are definitely moving through. As now it's going to be Blair Holloman leading the way. They're going to go with Michael Madden now diving to the inside. They got contact 4 wide, trying to make it work.
Wow, that was impressive that the 48 held on to that. That could have been that could have been the second really, really bad wreck.
Oh, man, and I got to tell you, Greg Olenek first race back, that was a Code Brown moment right there for him as that 48 was about turned right into that 31 truck. Great job by Michael Larch saving that one, and great job for the field, giving him a little bit of room there. But we stay 3 wide, tightly packed around here. We're not even halfway through this race.
Oh, and Olenek is no stranger to winning these plate races. And so definitely not a bad – it was a joke pick, but at the same time a serious pick because he is one of those drivers that knows how to wheel his way around, especially here at Talladega.
Yeah, and actually, you know what? I think this is a little bit of a sign of confidence here.
Goes. Oh, man. Oh, and Greg gets through it, but others do not, including Michael Madden. Michael Madden is destroyed.
Man, I thought they were about to save that there for a second, but that would have been a miracle if they were going to pull that one off with the way that Madden hit that apron and was still stuck to, I'm not sure which truck that was, to the inside of them.
Techmeyer.
It was Techmeyer, yeah. So once they got together, I mean, it was going to be a miracle if they were going to save it. They nearly did. But for the second time tonight, we got a major wreck here that's going to involve a lot of the top 10.
Yeah, and some of these trucks behind just had nowhere to go. And so ended up getting some damage there as well. But we'll take another look at it here on the wreck replay and see what else we see. But, yeah, big hit up there on the 87. That's Andrew Harris getting involved in there. And I believe that was Sean Jensick also. Getting a big piece of that. So they are definitely going to have some damage to repair.
Tell you what, nod to the 7 truck. I didn't think he avoided all of this, sitting right behind this camera. He's going to come into this, does a good job getting woed up, and that's 7 of Jeffrey Vickery. Great job. Just using that high line, letting the field the wreck kind of just wash off the racetrack, and then just start rolling again on the high side. That was textbook wreck avoidance here at Talladega.
Yeah, I think that wreck could have been a whole lot bigger than what it was. So really good on those drivers. I think we only had probably 4 or 5 cars or 4 or 5 trucks actually involved in that wreck, which, like I said, could have been a whole heck of a lot worse.
Yeah, and I think part of that was just how the field was set up on the racetrack at that point. We saw everybody kind of hanging out on the inside, aside from that top 10. So I think everybody just all lined up, and once they saw everything start to break loose, they just all kind of backed off, gave each other that room, and there wasn't any traffic high or low for them to have to navigate. They could just kind of pick their line and work their way through for the most part.
And now everybody deciding to pit. Really, that kind of interesting move there, in my opinion. They've only been in for. Oh, and we got some wrecking there on pit road. Wow.
It looks like one missed the pit their pit stall, and I think that kind of blocked a couple of trucks and really caused that little bit of chaos back there. But we're talking about the timing. I do believe that with these caution laps, they should be able to make it the advertised distance at least. That's not going to count green-white checkers, but with these caution laps, they should be good to go the rest of the way to lap 55.
Well, up front, Nathan Nixon continues to lead this race. Blair Holloman, who avoided the wreck a little bit earlier. Another U-Haul. Oh, no, that's the same U-Haul that we were talking about earlier. I was like, man, there's another U-Haul out there. That's insane. Blair Holloman up there in the 10 in second place. And then Greg Olenek really making a strong showing on his first week back up here in third.
Yeah, we'll have Daniel Park sitting in fourth in the old DW-looking truck out there, the 17. Kevin Asanio going to be rounding out the top 5 there in 14th. And just because I like seeing the truck, the LSU truck, Travis Burton sitting there in position number 6 as we get ready for this restart.
I got to tell you, that is a great look. They did a great job on that truck.
That truck looks as good as Death Valley does on a Saturday night down in Baton Rouge. That is a good-looking truck, and I'm totally biased, of course.
Oh man, it's I'm a very big fan of LSU. I actually had a cousin that played for them, and so I was actually able to get out on the field in Death Valley back in the 80s. But but still,
they were still tricking the seismograph out there in Baton Rouge in the 80s.
They were. So. Yes, they were. Probably even more back then. But they had weak seismographs back then. But
don't give away the secrets and how that happened.
All right, well, let's kind of go back through the pack a little bit more, just touch on a few guys here. So Trevor Williams, our pole sitter, back here in 13th position. So he did get a little bit of damage repaired, it looked like. He spent a little bit more time in the pits than normal. So I think he had some stuff that he had to get done, either that or he might have missed his box and had to come back in. Not really sure what happened there. But another guy we haven't even touched on tonight, Jacob Zala, back here for Jonathan Byer Racing in 16th position. He's one of those that he is always a threat to win the race, and he's just kind of biding his time back here.
Yeah, he was. I remember talking about him at Daytona, where he ran a very, I would say, a very mature race in how he handled everything. Was kind of sitting back, very Denny Hamlin-esque, actually. For the first 80% of that race, the last 20, he was just like a bull in a china shop. Just went straight through the field, pushing anybody he could, taking all the opportunities he could. I think we're kind of seeing a little bit of a similar setup here for him. And we saw a couple of trucks dive down pit road here right before they took the one to green. I think there's a lot of guys starting to think, you know what, we might be pushing this a little bit close on fuel. They are going to be cutting it close. I think they're good, but it's going to be tight. Those guys might have been saying, you know what, I'll take that extra lap of fuel around here.
Another guy to touch on here, back here in 21st position, Rob Yost Jr. And, a couple seasons ago, we called him the ultimate underdog because he was just that guy in the playoffs that nobody thought could really make it through, and he kept making it through round after round after round. Well, this season, he's up in 8th position in the points right now, and so can't really call him an underdog anymore, can we?
No, and I think what he did was he took the best of 2 seasons ago or 3 seasons ago and then took the best of the strategy that he had last season. Last season, he started in the back by choice every single week and just tried to avoid the chaos out there on the racetrack, and it worked out. This season, he's out there qualifying. He's starting up farther up in the field, getting the better track position, and still trying that same strategy. And now you look at those point standings and you see him up there in 8th as he's taking advantage of kind of meshing those two worlds together, and it's really been good for him.
Yeah, it's pretty easy not to be on the cut line when you're ahead of the cut line for most of the race. And so I think he's learned that lesson, and he'll probably use that to his advantage. But man, always good to see him out there. Great job by him this week and others.
Yeah, absolutely. As we get a pace car ready to dive off down onto pit road, and we're getting ready to go back racing here right after the halfway point here at Talladega.
So just a couple cautions here tonight, and so it's not really a bad race at all. But we will see if they can maintain that composure as Nathan Nixon once again will get the race. See, there is a Geico up there. There is one. See, it's messing us up. Now this is the actual Geico restart zone. And Nathan Nixon will take off, and Blair Holloman on his outside. Greg Olenek on the inside right behind Nathan Nixon. They used to be teammates, and so they know each other really well.
Yeah, that inside line's interesting. You got former teammates there in Nixon and Olenek. You also got current teammates with Olenek and Asanio sitting there. You also got Brad Herman, who's got Blair Holloman as a teammate. They're side by side, 4th row back right now. So this is going to be really interesting in how these guys kind of set themselves up for the rest of this race, because they should be good to go the rest of the way. Again, it will be close, but I think they'll be good. So we're going to start seeing the chess match really start to play out as guys are going to start positioning themselves with their teammates and who they're comfortable with.
Got to zoom in on the Hooters truck here because Mike Lepicki has come to play. He is up in 8th position. Don't see that too often. He's one of those guys that he just works a ton, and so it's really good whenever he does. He is able to show up for the races, but it's even better to see him up front with everybody.
Yeah, I see a little bit of damage. Believe he got caught in some post-caution incident there on the racetrack. We're just getting out of there and got a little bit of damage after avoiding a wreck. But, I mean, that 23 truck looking pretty good despite that right side being scuffed up, and he set himself up in a pretty good position there. 3rd in line on that outside. Oh, Asanio getting loose there off of turn 2. Got a couple of trucks changing their lines back there deeper into the field. But for the most part, everybody good to go as Daniel Park with a giant shove to Blair Holloman, who's going to get that 10 truck out in front.
Gotta also call out this number 37 in 14th place, Raul Meza. Keep in mind, he was a lap down not too long ago, and now he's up in the top 15. So maybe that whole thing was just a strategy.
Get out of the way and let carnage happen and get right back out in front. It might have been, but that's what you got to do. You get a lap down, and you're the only one a lap down. You just got to keep that faith up that you're going to get that lap back. You're going to get an opportunity, especially a place like this. You get back on that lead lap, you're right back in the mix for the win.
So far, a really good race here, and everybody, for the most part, minding their P's and Q's. So a lot of times here at Talladega, we will see a ton of switching lanes and everything, especially down this backstretch, and we just haven't seen that this time around. We've had a few mistakes here and there, but besides that, everybody's just kind of content to stay where they're at, except for Blair Holloman, who dives down to the inside to take the lead.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a good point, and I think a way to word it is, just because there's accidents doesn't mean it's not a conservative race. Sometimes those things just happen. People kind of go into the wrong spot or the same spot at the same time, and you just see certain things. But for the most part, I think everybody's been courteous. Everybody's been given space despite those two wrecks. And one thing we keep seeing, and I kind of want to point this out, you keep seeing that 31 of Olenek just kind of taking that peak a little bit higher, a little bit low from behind Nathan Nixon. I don't think he's looking at changing lanes or trying to start a third line here. He's just trying, in my opinion, what I believe is he's just trying to get air to the front of that 31 truck to keep it from overheating. When you're shoving somebody like he was shoving the 11 truck, that truck can get hot quick. And so I don't think he's trying to find a new line or try to get the 11 out of position. I think he's just trying to get air into that truck.
Right, and he's just kind of saving that engine until later in the race when he will actually need it. Here with 24 laps to go, in about 20 laps, this is all going to pick up, and he is going to use every bit of energy in that engine to try to get around these guys.
Oh yeah, there's no saving the temps or anything like that. It's let's get that thing as hot as possible. I'm going to be shoving as best as I can, and if it blows up on those final couple laps. But at this point in the race, get that air in there, save that engine, keep the power in it, and see what'll happen here in 23 laps.
And really, that space that you see between him and Nixon right now can also be a strategy all across the board. And you'll see that outside line; they are packed tighter, closer together. Yes, that's going to make their trucks overheat a little bit, but yeah, there's a lot more speed involved. But that inside line can kind of maintain that distance between them. They can not only keep their trucks from overheating, but they can also keep that speed too. So it's a really delicate balance that they're dealing with here. And now you can see Greg kind of push up just a little bit as that outside line threatens to come down to the inside.
And it's kind of interesting. The trucks are going to be a little bit more what we've grown used to over the past couple of decades with plate racing or super speedway racing in general, where if you're the third one in line, you're not affecting a whole lot. You're just kind of trying to maintain the power inside that line, and you don't. The old motto is don't push the pusher. You're not trying to shove somebody that's shoving somebody else, because that truck's going to get up in the air and just get really uncomfortable. It's kind of stuck in the middle, and it's going to start getting all over the place, and there's going to be a wreck if you do that. I think the difference now, the next-gen Cup cars, the third car can still affect that draft a pretty good bit. You want to get tight. You want to be not pushing, but you want to use the air bubble to push. Here in the trucks, a little bit more old school from what we're used to. You can kind of do this, what we're seeing here from the 31 of Greg Olenek, just giving that little bit of space. You'll keep the power going well, and you're not really going to cost a whole lot by giving up that room.
Yeah, but the worst feeling in the world is what Nathan Nixon's going through right now, where he's got this truck in front of him that he is pushing hard. He's got Greg Olenek right on his tail. There is nothing that he can do.
No, and he can't take a peek to the outside either with the 17 right there. He knows he's got to stay right on that yellow line as best as he could and just shove Blair as best as he can at this point. Oh, real low entry there, or real low exit, I should say, for the 31. As Olenek was right, kind of straddling that yellow line, did a good job of controlling it there. But I think we're starting to see who the players are in this race, because this top 12 starting to kind of break away just a little bit. If this field stays green, they might be in a pretty good position here because they're getting comfortable out here. They're not staying in that single file line. Not to say that these guys are in any danger, but they're just kind of be a little bit, it's kind of one of those use it or lose it kind of things. If you're getting comfortable side by side, you're getting that confidence every time by and what you can do with this race truck. I think that does come into play a little bit mentally for some of these drivers.
Yeah, I'm really fine with this single file line back here towards the middle to the back of the pack here. The bad news about that is unless they all get together and decide we are going to tighten up and really push our way forward, that's where they're going to end up, is right there in the mid-pack. That's all they can do, because you've got to be tighter than those cars up front in order to really do anything.
Yeah, I mean, you can still feel that draft. Always got Greg Olenek jumped out to the outside. He's going to lead that high line now, and he's going to get that big push. And I think what we've seen thus far out of these trucks that are still full power and still running clean, I think that 17 truck might be the best pusher in the field right now, because of what we've seen him multiple times shove somebody out into the front. I think he's real confident shoving somebody there in that 17.
And Greg would love nothing more than in his debut this season to lead a lap. He did not lead that one. That was Blair Holloman, but he is definitely going to push for it here as Daniel Park gives him a nice shove going into the corner.
Now, what's going to hurt a little bit there is you can see how much that outside line is loosened up. And we talked about that on the inside line, how they had so many people, and it's not going to affect it as much. That high line loosening up with how few trucks that they have, that does affect the power a little bit more, because they're not generating as much of a draft all the way through that field. So they've got to stay a little bit tighter, but still getting a good run there on the high line, as I don't think it'll be a lead this time by, but that outside line working pretty well despite only being 5 trucks deep.
Oh, I don't know. He's getting a great push right now. That was a huge push, and that is something to keep in the thought bank for a little bit later. Was that Olenek that led that one?
Yeah, by 0.02 of a second that time. Maybe we'll see something similar to that in terms of a finish. And man, I think Blair Holloman, he's had enough of those 1 or 2,000th of a second finishes in his career here in SRN. Might want to see a little bit more of a gap than that, but if we get a finish like that, that'd be incredible here tonight.
I mean, we have already, I'm telling you, we've got it all set up and ready to go. I was working on this camera. We've got the photo finish line just in case. And so we are coming prepared tonight.
Oh, you always got to have that one ready to roll here. But one thing I was just noticing, still got 27 trucks on the lead lap despite the 2 big wrecks that we've seen. So still a lot of options out there. Now, of course, you got 4 trucks off pace that are closing up. So we got 23 deep here in this lead pack still, all with a shot to win it. We're going to see these guys navigate these lap traffic that are, looks like they're all going to be going high for the most part. A little bit of communication, I would imagine, from these lead drivers, just letting the lap traffic know where to go so they can kind of be cleared out of the way and not really affect the race or cause any bad problems. We got that line of 3. They're starting to move to the outside. Lead pack going to move to the bottom and middle of the racetrack.
Yeah, that's Landon Cardulo and Derek Da Silva and Kyle Ryan, I believe. Actually, no, Kyle Ryan's at the back of this pack. So Landon Cardulo, Derek Da Silva, and I'm not sure who that third car is.
Bo Tiffany
is that
leading
Bo Tiffany?
that pack.
Okay, there you go. And so they will go a lap down. I think Bo was already a lap down. Yeah, Bo was already multiple laps down. So not really contending at this point. But up front, still Blair Holloman, and on the outside, still Greg Olenek. Nathan Nixon, he could have had a shot there to jump up in front of Olenek, but decided not to.
Yeah, I think he's comfortable on this inside line. I think he found a good drafting partner. He's comfortable with Blair Holloman right now. I think he just knows, you know what, I like what I've got here. I like being on the inside line. There's a lot of guys that like that low line because if a wreck breaks out, you have options. You can take to the apron. You can take to the grass to try to get away from anything that's going on. If you're riding that high line, you got the wall or you got traffic on your inside. So you kind of feel a little bit pinched in. There's a lot of guys that feel a lot more comfortable running that yellow line.
Checking in really quick on our pole sitter back here, Trevor Williams. He's just kind of hanging out back here in 22nd place. Has not lost the draft yet. He is just kind of sitting there and chilling. So we'll keep an eye on him a little bit further into the race. Oh, we got pit stops already.
And there's a lot of guys that thought that they might have been able to make it. Not going to be the case here as we see these pit stops starting. They're going to go for a splash of fuel. I don't think they're going to stay in too long. Definitely won't be taking tires. Maybe just enough fuel, maybe 5 laps, 6 laps worth, just to take it a little bit farther. The gamble here is going to be, do you take enough fuel to stay out if this race goes multiple overtimes as well? You're going to lose on the front end, but if it pays off, you'll shoot right back up to the front because you're going to have enough fuel and everybody else might be taking just enough to get to the advertised distance.
Yeah, Raul Meza was the one that took the least amount of fuel there, so about 6 seconds worth. Everyone else took 7 to 10 seconds worth. And so definitely some discrepancy there between those strategies, and we'll see if that comes into play if we get to a green-white checker finish. But up front, now the question is, with 15 to go, I mean, we thought they could make it the entire way. Apparently they can't.
Well, remember when we were talking about Nathan Nixon taking the outside, having that opportunity, but staying with Blair Holloman? That's the other part of the decision there. He's saving fuel by not leading one of these lines. So that might have been a comfort thing fuel mileage-wise, saying, you know what, I could lead this race. I could lead that high line, but I'm also going to be burning a whole lot more fuel. So sitting there on that second position in the inside line, he's going to be rolling that throttle about 80% from what the leader is. He might be able to stretch this thing.
The other part of this is one of those tracks where you do not lose a lap if you come into pit under green. And so those cars that did, or those trucks that did come into pit, they are still on the lead lap. Raul Meza back here in 18th place. He is still 28 seconds behind the pack, but not off the lead lap yet. So that could come into play in case there is a yellow. But now also the other part to play into this is those trucks on the inside line, if they choose to pit, are going to have a lot easier time getting down their to pit lane than Greg Olenek in the outside line.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be the telltale sign for those outside trucks. You start seeing them find their way to the inside line. That's going to be the sign that they're going to have to make a pit stop. I'm very nervous right now if I'm in that 10 or the 31 about where I'm standing fuel-wise. Seeing everybody make that pit stop, that's going to make it a little bit dicey out there. And based on what we were talking about with the YouTube chat, it sounds like Blair might be listening. So he might be thinking we're idiots, or might be thinking, hey, this might be something I need to be nervous about right now. But if everybody else starting to make those pit stops, that should be opening some eyes out there that this thing might be cutting it a lot closer than they're thinking.
If I know Blair Holloman, he's saying, watch this, boys. Greg Olenek getting way ahead of Blair Holloman. Will he take that inside line? He won't.
No, I think he knew that he's got a good push partner right now with that 17. I think he kicked out a little bit high because he almost got too good of a push that time from Daniel Park, and it kind of shoved him up to the outside. But Park, I think he's also comfortable being the second one in line, saving that fuel, because he left that opening there and let Greg get back in line. I think we're seeing a lot of smart sacrificing here by Nathan Nixon and Daniel Park, and everybody behind them not getting overly ambitious here and putting themselves at risk as we see another one dropping down low. This might be a sign we're going to see some pit stops here pretty soon.
Yeah, I would give it maybe another lap. But yeah, that outside line has dwindled down to just 3 drivers. And so I think everybody's just trying to think about when are they going to come down there. And if this group stays together, then they will likely have the advantage over those guys that came in a little bit earlier. But if they break apart, maybe half and half, it's going to be a little bit more difficult, and it's going to be a lot more fun for us to watch because there'll be 3 different strategies.
Well, and the fun thing here from our viewpoint, if you're not so much if you're on the racetrack, but say that inside line all decides that they're going to come down pit road at one time, but the outside line stays out. They're going to have a little bit of a speed sacrifice there because they've only got 3 trucks. But what they're going to make up time on is there's going to be a lot less congestion and a lot less chaos getting down into pit road with having so few trucks compared to that inside line. So this might be one of those things that the inside line, if they all start making this pit stop together, it might hurt them if they do this all at the same time, even though they're going to have more power in the draft afterwards. But just getting into pit road is going to be a whole lot more hairier for them.
Yeah, but I think that if they're going to make that pit stop here with 10 laps to go, I think they need to do it in the next 1 to 2 laps. Otherwise, you kind of run with what you got.
Yeah, and hey, the other thing that we might be missing, maybe they are still good, and with the guys that we saw come down pit road, we were seeing 7 to 10 laps, they might be saying, you know what? This race probably going to get a caution. We're going to take that opportunity here. At worst, we're going to fall down to about 24th place. So let's take that shot. We're in the back half of that lead lap anyway. Come down pit road, and if there's a caution and there's an overtime finish, we're going to cycle up right towards the front by being able to stay out.
Well, Greg Olenek all the way up on the outside all by himself, so everybody has worked down to the inside. So I still get that gut feeling that we're going to see some pit stops at some point. Greg Olenek going way outside to get around Walt Lipicki there, one of the lap cars.
I think Walt was seeing that inside line and was just thinking, I'm going to give him some space, and I don't think he caught that Greg Olenek was out there all by himself on the high line, just kept drifting up to get out of the way, and man, that was almost a terrible moment there for the 31 of Olenek, as he almost got just clipped off there, and he's going to dive down to the inside, finally finding some space, and we got the entire lead pack now of 13 trucks all the way back to Rob Yost Jr., all on that inside line, 25 seconds clear of the next pack.
The one thing that I wish that iRacing would allow us to do is see their fuel gauges inside the car, but those gauges don't work except for the accelerometer there. So that's all you can see. But man, I really wish I knew how much fuel they had, and it doesn't sound like he's really gutting it.
Pit stops. We got Kevin Asanio, Greg Olenek about the back half of this lead pack, all coming in. 5 stay out, 7 or 8 come down pit road.
Well, we were watching Blair Holloman there, and he was under 7,000 RPMs. It did not sound like he was really gutting it. We just had one of them blow up on the track. I believe that may have been I don't know who that was. That may have been Lucas Lyons. But yeah. But now they're right back out on the track. Looks like about 4.5 to 5 seconds worth of fuel, all the way up to maybe 7 seconds worth of fuel. But this front pack, if you look at that tack, he is right at 7,000 RPM. Usually he's between 7,500 and 8,000, if I remember correctly. So he is not putting everything into this right now.
No, they're definitely trying to conserve it as best as they can. If you're that lead truck, I think everybody else might be fine with how much he's conserving, and then they're conserving even more. And they're so far ahead of that second group that they're not really in danger if they're going a little bit slower. So we got a 6-car breakaway, nearly 30 seconds clear of Trevor Williams in 7th right now. That lead pack that just came, or the lead group that just came down pit road, they're all going to be sitting around 14th position, it looks like, for Kevin Asanio, who I think was the first one off pit road. So they lost a few spots. This is going to be real interesting if this thing stays green, how this is all going to play out.
Not only that, but that pack that just pitted is 5 seconds behind the pack that originally pitted, which was the Raul Meza pack. And so they are still, Kevin Asanio and Greg Olenek and them, they are still 5 seconds behind the second pack, much less the third or the first one.
Oh, pit stops for the leaders. They're coming down now.
Oh, I bet that is super frustrating for all of them because they thought they might have a shot at it. But once one of them gets to that point where we got to go, then I think all of them had to do it. So that may turn the race over here to Trevor Williams. Now, again, Trevor has not pitted yet either, but Trevor Williams, Michael Larch, Dean Gagliano, all 3 teammates, I would be willing to bet right now that they were playing this thing out the whole time.
And remember when you pointed out that Trevor Williams came back down pit road a second time under caution? What would that have done? Topped off the fuel an extra lap or 2 under that caution. That might be the difference here in this race, and that strategy might be paying off. If this thing stays green the rest of the way, that could be a huge net gain for that 46. But we got Raul Meza and Kyle Spies starting that high line, trying to make this through. They are on the same lap. They're in the same pack now. This for the race lead.
Yeah, and keep in mind that they have plenty of fuel, so they can go pedal to the metal, while those inside cars might not be able to.
Yeah, they're staying tight in this line here for those 3 JW trucks on the inside. And I think you're talking about the time. I think that these guys on the outside, they might be good for an overtime or 2 actually as well with how much fuel that they were taking. You're saying 7 to 10 seconds. That might be enough to kind of safeguard them as well. So this could be a huge moment for Raul Meza, who was dead last on the racetrack early on in this one, now leading the way at Talladega with 4 to go.
I mean, and Trevor Williams would be... He's doing what he's supposed to do right here. He's going to let these guys get past, and then he is going to use them to draft. I think that is a smart move by Trevor Williams here if he can get tucked up in there. But Raul Meza, what a great race he has run.
Man, this is the ultimate back-to-front story after, I mean, Meza started in 39th. He started in the back. I think he lost the draft at the start of the race is what happened there, and just kind of fell back to the point where he got a lap down, waited his time, caught that lucky dog, And final 5 laps, that 37 truck right back out in front. And there's only a small pack of 7 trucks in this mix right now. He's got a great opportunity to win this thing after being a lap down early.
Even better inside story on Raul Meza. He almost didn't even get into the race tonight. So we had so many people want to get into the race tonight that he was on the outside looking in. One or two people dropped out, and so he was able to get into the race. He started off a lap down, and now he's the leader, and he is in the best position.
Trouble on the second pack.
Here we go.
Kevin Asanio got down onto the apron. I have no idea how he just saved that truck, and we stay green, even though there might be a whole lot of guys thinking, maybe we kind of wish he did get that thing turned around and a caution came out, because that would have given them an opportunity. That's going to cost that second group a little bit more time, as they were still racing side by side with each other for position. They were already having a tough time closing in on this group, and it's going to open it up even more, and we got even more of a 6-car breakaway now.
This is going insane. We got Raul Meza up there. We got Kyle Spees up there. So a couple of people out there in the chat that they are always there. Kelly Chamberlain, Megan Spees. I believe Miss Sue Nowak is out there. I mean, so all these people always show up every single week to watch this thing, and all their guys are up front right now.
Think about it this way. Kyle Spees sitting there in second. What's he done at Daytona and Talladega this year? A win in the Truck Series, a win in the Xfinity Series. It might be going 3 for 3 at these super speedways here if he can get that 25 up one more position, which could be a wild story in its own right.
And then you got Kyle Spees and Jeff Vickery, part of that rebrand into Threat Level Midnight Motorsports. They would love to start off that Threat Level Midnight Motorsports team with a big night here at Talladega.
It's going to be a 3-car pack. 3-car pack. The JW trio now on pit road. They're having to take fuel. So it is all down to Raul Meza, Kyle Spees, and Jeffrey Vickery. 8 seconds clear of the rest of the field. If they can get to the white flag, that is all they're hoping for. 2 more miles of green flag to get to the white and not have a caution come out to set up a green-white checker.
And if that happens, then Raul Meza has to fend off 2 teammates to get to that line. So one of them can pop up to the outside, one of them can stay down to the inside if they want to. They can both pop up to the outside and maybe possibly draft past him. So it is a really tough position that Raul Meza is in. But right now, I think he wants to stay up front. I don't think he wants to be behind these guys drafting to the finish line.
No, he's got to be in this lead position, especially because you don't know if a caution's coming out before you get to the line. The other thing he's got to do, once they get to this line, we get to the white flag, it's just one strategy, block like hell out there. If you're in that 37 truck, try to stop every run you possibly can. The challenge is on, white flag in the air.
Here we go, one more lap here at Talladega. Only 3 trucks could realistically win this thing. But Raul Meza leading the way. Kyle Spees just waiting for his moment. Now they're going to pop out to the outside. 2 teammates popping out there, and can they stay together? Can Jeffrey Vickery continue to just push Kyle Spees here hard enough to get past Raul? And they do. Both of them get past him, dive down to the inside. Kyle Spees leading the way coming to the checker.
That was smart by Raul Meza. Drop back as quickly as you can. Get back in line. Try to get this big pull here as he closes in on this draft. He might still be able to get a little bit of a wrap around here at the end.
And now those teammates are side by side. They need to stay off of each other. Otherwise, Raul might have a shot here. But the teammates will stay away from each other. They will come to the line, and it will be Jeffrey Vickery, I believe.
No, I got Kyle Spees on the iRacing chart by less than 1,000th of a second.
Oh, wow. My scoring tower is showing Vickery. The iRacing tower is showing Spees.
We need that camera that you pulled up there earlier to figure this one out.
A little bit. We are going to go to that camera. That is, I'm going to have to get that pulled up. This is...
when we've got the split decision like this, that tells you it's down to 10,000ths of a second, not just 1,000th. We might have the closest finish in SRN history right here tonight at Talladega.
I'm not sure you're going to get a good angle of this. This is still going to be too quick to go by. Let's find out if we can maybe possibly see it.
I don't even think Kyle or Jeffrey know who won yet.
Trying to get that. That was not them. Let's see. I mean, he's still waving the white flag up there. He's not even waving the checkered.
Come on, Barney. Where's the checkers? There it goes.
That was not them.
Lap.
So let's find. I mean, it is so hard to get a good. Yeah, it was Vickery. I believe. Well, based on that, I thought it was Vickery, but I don't know.
Let's see if we can get a pause or something. Kind of rewind back a little bit.
That is so tough.
See if we can go frame by frame. There you go. Actually, you know what? Kyle Spees, you look at the splitter there.
Yeah, I think you may be right. Let's pull up the actual official results here. And Kyle Spees is named the winner here at Talladega. What is going on here? That is amazing.
That is 3 wins this season for Kyle Spees, and it might be by a total of about 0.05 of a second over all 3 of them. Unbelievable season here.
Incredible finish. That is insane. Kyle Spees takes the double here. He won at Daytona. He's winning here at Talladega. So he is our super speedway king this season. Jeffrey Vickery, his teammate, Threat Level Midnight, starting off really, really good with that rebrand. He is up in second. Raul Meza, who almost didn't even make the race tonight, started off a lap down, but he will end up in third here. And then Greg Olenek, welcome back, man, in fourth place with Byron Jones right behind him.
We'll have Jose Castellanos bringing up position number 6. Nathan Nixon up front for so much of that race will wind up in 7th. Matthew Greathouse, another one of those quiet nights up in the top 10, as he'll be in 8th position. Blair Holloman, a leader for much of this race, will finish in 9th. And, well, LSU buddy Travis Burton, top 10, rounding out in 10th position.
Daniel Park there as an independent in 11th. Mike Lepicki for Tank Racing up there in 12th. Jason Kratky for Threat Level Midnight. He will be the third scorer on Threat Level Midnight, so they're going to have a big points night. And then Jonathan Byer Racing had 3 in a row here. Jacob Zala, Kyle Ryan, and James Kerr. Then Kevin Asanio there for Phoenix Virtual Racing. Then rounding out the top 18, Brad Herman for Zuyos Racing.
And unbelievable. After all the carnage we saw in those 2 cautions, still 23 on the lead lap at the end of that thing. But, man, guy finishing third wasn't even on the lead lap at one point in this race. So we saw a whole lot of everything here tonight at Talladega in the last race before we get into that build week here for an off week.
I mean, let's see if we can't get a hold of Raul Meza and talk to him about his, wild evening. Let's pull him up into the booth right now. Raul, welcome to the booth up here with Sean and Brandon, man. Hey, Raul, you got a copy?
Yes.
Oh, there he is. There he is. Okay, yeah, man, that was an insane race for you. Starting off, I believe you started off on pit road. You went a lap down, and then all of a sudden you're up in the lead with a lap to go. Tell me about your race, man.
Oh man, it was unbelievable the way it unfolded, man. Unfortunately, I had trouble with my wheel, and it just wasn't registering with the sim here, and I just thought I wasn't gonna race at all. But when you guys, when the field was coming down and take the green, for some reason it kicked back in, and I missed the start, but I was able to go ahead and take advantage of that first caution and get my lap back.
Man, we saw you get a top 10 at Motegi a couple of races ago, and follow up with the top 20 last week at Rockingham. Now this top 3 finish, getting things headed in the right direction, moving towards that cut line. I know we got only one race here in the next 4 weeks because of the holidays and the build schedule, but how is that momentum feeling right now with you moving up towards that top 15?
Yeah, it feels great. It feels great, man, to have this kind of finish here in Dega. It's not that easy. It's not that easy for sure. It's a very tough field. You got a bunch of great guys here in this league, and it's not that easy to even get a top 10 at some of these tracks. But yeah, it's feeling good, and hopefully we can continue with this momentum.
Well, man, you absolutely killed it tonight. Is there anybody you'd like to thank tonight before we let you go?
Yeah, absolutely. I want to thank my family. I want to thank my main sponsor, ServPro, for always coming on board and slapping their brand here on my vehicles. And I want to thank you guys, man. You guys put an awesome show out there, every single race. I want to thank everybody at SRN, everybody that puts their heads together, their efforts, their time to be able to go ahead and allow guys like myself to come out here and partake of all this fun.
Well, man, we got a good shout out for ServPro a little bit earlier in the race, so be sure to go back and watch that on the replay. But congratulations here tonight with a third place finish, and we will see you here in a couple of weeks as we head to New Hampshire.
Sounds like a plan. Thanks again, fellas.
All right, man. Take care. All right, we'll move him down into his Discord channel, and then let's go down to Threat Level Midnight and see if we can't get Jeff Vickery. And, I can't imagine he's going to be too terribly upset, but 1,000th of a second, I don't know. There might be a little bit of bitterness there. Jeff, what are you thinking, man?
I don't know. It was a good race. I mean, we had fun at the end there. I told Kyle after we passed, before we passed Mezza, that I was going to race him for it, and we did just that. And I got next to him. I saw he had a little damage on the side, so I was like, "Oh, maybe I'll have this at a clean truck." And he dipped at the end there. But I mean, that's all. Props to him because he was pushing Raul like crazy to get us away from everyone. I can't push that good, so I wouldn't have been in that situation if he hadn't been pushing him along. And that was just a fun race.
Man, it was an absolute blast watching that one and seeing how close we'll have to check, but I'm pretty sure that was the closest finish in SRN
pretty
history.
Sure it was, absolutely.
Awesome. That might have been less than 1,000th, honestly. But I just taking a look at the point standings here, we're at the midway point. Came into this race a little behind that cut line, but a finish like a second place, as good of a run as it was tonight. Moving yourself back up into that picture to get one of those playoff spots. How's these next few weeks going to be, where we're kind of getting that off week on, holiday break, and then getting back into the swing of things? How do you approach the second half of the regular season? Being in I know myself, I'm in a similar position where you're kind of around that cut line when you get all this time off.
I think it just gives us more time to practice. We set up practice servers all the time, so the nights we're not racing here, we'll just set up a practice server for that night and treat it like we're actually racing and get some laps in, especially with New Hampshire coming up. I think everyone needs practice there, so we'll just practice some more.
Well, man, I mean, you came back and you rebranded into Threat Level Midnight Motorsports. And if you don't know what Threat Level Motorsports or Threat Level Midnight is, then you can't be my friend. But you, my friend, are my friend. And so congratulations on that rebrand. But this is probably a good way for you to start that thing off, isn't it?
Yeah, actually, we have a ton of teammates. We run in a bunch of other leagues, and we were running with Bobby. And then we just rebranded to this, and we brought Corey in, who raced with us too, so it's good to have him on board. Jason moved over with us, and Kyle stayed on, so we got a good group of guys, and I don't know, it's great to see our name in SRN now, so it's a big plus for us.
Well, man, tell us who you have to thank here tonight before we let you get back to celebrating with your team.
Always the Threat Level Midnight guys. Kyle for pushing Raul along there. That was awesome. All the guys communicating on the team all night, just thanks to them. You guys doing the broadcast, SRN, for putting this all on. We really appreciate everything.
I'm actually going to send an email out to the Office Ladies podcast. They're doing a rewatch of The Office, and I'm going to let them know they have a racing team. I'm going to let them know, and they are being well represented here. So, man, congratulations.
I'll keep you to it. Thanks, man.
All right, man. We'll let you get back to celebrating down there, and we're going to bring your teammate up here and find out what he thinks about it all.
Sounds good.
All right, buddy. All right, let's get Kyle Spees up here, and he should be getting pretty used to this booth by now because he has been up here every single time we've had a plate race. So, Kyle Spees, tell me what you saw coming to the finish line.
Victory, baby, victory.
That is the way to do it.
That's right. Now, props to Mezza for joining the group out of nowhere, and shout out to the team captain now, Jeff Vickery. Without him pushing me towards the end, and we actually asked each other, are you going to race me or are you going to help me? He wanted to race at the end, and I set us up for me and him to race, and it was a fantastic finish tonight all around.
Well, hey, we were talking not too long ago at Daytona, you getting your first SRN win, and now in 3 super speedway races this season, Daytona and Talladega, you got 3 wins over here across all of them. What have you figured out about this style of racing that's led to so much success here this season?
I pride myself for the super speedway strategies and the way I put myself in them. Just from whenever I started this game, it always seems to fall right into my hands that I could get the chance to win. Even if you talk to Greg, he's big on me on these super speedways, and I tell you what, it just always happens for me. I don't have a secret weapon. We just kind of look at the gas, see what we can do, and make it happen tonight. Like I said, it fell right into our hands, and we got another one. Props to the team, not just me. Our team worked great tonight. So without them, I wouldn't have got it.
Well, man, you definitely have the most fans out there in YouTube right now. I know Megan and Miss Sue, they were out there cheering you on the entire way. So what do you have to say to your fans out there?
Appreciate you guys watching, like always. I will be texting you here in a moment, and we're going to celebrate, like always. And I can't believe we did it again. So shout out to them. I appreciate them coming and chatting with you guys and sticking with you guys for 3 years now. They've been chatting in the chat for you guys. So it's been great for them to watch and me still be a part of the league.
Man, we love having them there. So what sponsors do you have to thank here tonight?
Big shout out to Sports and Stuff page on Facebook. A buddy of mine runs that. And then just shout out to Threat Level Midnight, new team, part of the league, and I've been a part of them in different leagues, and they're a great group of guys. Jeff's a great team captain, a great guy to be around and race with, and just shout out to you guys. I mean, like I said, I've been here for multiple years. It's been a blast racing for SRN and being a part of a group that dedicate themselves to a league.
Well, man, we appreciate it. We love having you here, and congratulations on, man, just really coming to town on those wins this season. So well deserved. So congratulations, and have a great night. Have a great week off, and we will see you back when we get back here to where are we going next? Yeah, we're going to New Hampshire. So we'll see you there.
I appreciate it, guys.
All right, man. Oh, Brandon, I have still just barely caught my breath, and now we got to talk about tomorrow night's race.
Yeah, we got a little bit of synergy. We were just talking about New Hampshire being the next race for the Truck Series once they come off the bye week, but going to get a little preview of it here coming up tomorrow night with the Granite 100 at New Hampshire. 100 laps around that the old Magic Mile out there, and looking forward to that one. Those Xfinity cars around that racetrack, that's a challenge in its own right, so we should be seeing some pretty good racing out there.
You know, we haven't really had too much luck at short tracks this season. We're hoping to break that curse here at New Hampshire, but it is definitely a tough track, and in those Xfinity cars, it's even tougher. You really have to wheel those things.
Yeah, you certainly do. I mean, just the way that they handle so differently from everything else, and that's a deceptively tight racetrack. It's obviously got that primary line. You can kind of make a second one work, see if anybody can actually pull that off tomorrow night and really kind of put that to use.
Well, we're going to have Greg Olenek back in the booth tomorrow night. Take it back over now that he's not racing in the Xfinity. He's going to be racing here in the Truck Series. So, sorry guys, you're stuck with me for a while here in the Truck Series. But Greg will be back tomorrow night. Do not miss it. It will be a great race. But for myself, for Brandon Domain, for everyone here at Speed Racing Network, please remember, always go faster.